to know everything. Who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next and latest episode of State of the Pels. I'm here with Myles. How are you doing, Myles?
I'm all good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad that the season is over. So,
Yeah, I agree.
61 losses, that's a beating. It's a lot. So yesterday I was at the Sunday I was at the final game.
Okay.
And the spirits were high. Like there was a lot of people there, way more than I was expecting. Like vibes were high. People were into all of it. And I think it just goes to show that like New Orleans wants a team here and they want them to be successful. You see all the hate online and everything all the time. It's easy to do that. But people are showing up still. And Trey Murphy had some really interesting words at the very beginning, right before the game started. And he said, I know the season didn't turn out how any of us wanted, but next year will be better. And he said it with a type of like matter of factness, like we will make sure that something's better. So give me your thoughts on the season as a whole overall and going forward. What are you thinking?
That's such a broad, just thing to pose. This season has been, I think the perfect word for this season has been draining. Not only, for the guys in that locker room that are, they're working day in and day out, which I think people are forgetting. These are NBA athletes. These guys are working. They're working hard. They're watching film. At least, hopefully, some of them are. At least, hopefully, our leaders are. They're watching film. They're putting the right things in our body. I think we've seen, out of all this darkness out of the season, we saw Zion get healthy. We saw Zion, look in shape. We saw Zion be the Zion that we want him to be in the future. He added some things to his game. One of his best rebounding years, best passing years. He looked like a phenomenal playmaker, and he looked like a guy that if he was on any other team that was winning, he would be in some MVP talks or at least some all-star conversations. We've seen Trey Murphy take that leap. That was good, and that was sort of a thing that we all knew, but we just had to see it on the court. It's not good. Not good for him. Doesn't feel good for the fans that he got hurt. But I think it's definitely going to be, a learning curve for him coming into this summer to stop because, Zion gets hurt a lot. Trey Murphy has been getting hurt a lot as well. It seems like every year something happens. It seems like every year something happens with everybody. We lose Herb.
Literally, all of them.
That was a big thing this year. We lose Herb. He's such an important, just team player. He was getting more vocal. He was getting more comfortable and confident, just being a starting player, being a guy that's up for Defensive Player of the Year, first team all defense last year. So we have a culmination, this perfect storm of bad events that when we look at the season, all we can see is the ugly. But, behind all of that, there were some things that we learned and we can take, to the next season. Now, if you were to ask me, were any of those fundamental things, those foundational, I should say, things, were they in the coaching? I probably would say no. I wouldn't agree that we found, something foundational with coaching. Was it in the management? Obviously, I think today we got our answer with that, and that's no. But overall, I would say with this season, it's just important that these guys and the fans realize that you got to keep it pushing.
Right.
You can't just, hold put to what we, the product that we got this year. It has to, things have to keep going forward, whether that's new ownership, whether that's new coaching, whether that's new management at the top, whether that's new players, whether that's new fans, quite honestly, because some fans probably shouldn't even be there. But, we just got to move forward. And I think weirdly enough, I know I've been a pessimistic guy this year, and it's really just been due to all that storm. But I don't know. I just have a good feeling about next year, and I think these guys, they're getting older. They're becoming vets. They realize that their time in this league is finite. I think it's important that they get it together, and we allow them the grace to get themselves together and still be fans. So yeah, that's how I feel about this year.
Yeah, and I think honestly, to the casual fan, I think there's a lot of casual fans in New Orleans of the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And I think what they saw was loss, 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 loss. I mean, it was just that's it. But if you're watching this team game in and game out, you're going to see all the things that you just mentioned, which were highlights, which were great things to see. And if I have any takeaway from this season, it's that the Pelicans are a really good team who were hurt all year long. You've got these 4 teams who are the worst in the league, who have the best shot at the number 1 draft pick. It doesn't matter who the Wizards, the Hornets, who the Jazz draft. They're not going to be good next year. They're going to be a little better, but they're not going to be good. And here's the deal. We could draft nobody this year, and we're going to be a very good team next year. That is the difference, and that is why we can actually have hope of what could happen next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of positivity there. We just, for crying out loud, stay healthy, And sometimes, honestly, I do think that comes with becoming an older player and maturity and realizing my body maybe can't do that. Maybe I can't go that extra mile on this play, because you just start to realize that you're not invincible anymore, that your body is just made up of parts that can break and tear and things like that. So, I mean, I am like you. I mean, and I've always been pretty positive about the Pelicans, but that's because I see the talent level there. I don't see some, underlying issues of guys with just bad attitudes, or guys that, are just full prideful egos, things like that. I don't see that on this team. And so next year could be great. Like we've been waiting for, because I think we have all the pieces.
Right.
But then we get the news that, Griffin's been fired and he's gone. And then there's, the rumors going around right now on who's replacing him. Is he firing Willie? He's keeping Willie and letting go, trading Zion? Like, unbelievable what's happening today. I personally think it was time to move on from David Griffin. It doesn't matter if the injuries were your fault or not. There were so many questions about things, even the Brandon Ingram trade this season. So I think it was time to move on. Not saying he's a bad dude, but just time to move on from him.
No. I don't think anybody's saying anybody's bad people. I think, on Airline, we've got a very, and they said it his entire tenure here. It's about good character. It's about having people that want to be here. It's about building that culture. And I think they sort of got that, and it showed. Everybody saw, there were talks. The Pelicans are the deepest team in the NBA. Look, they grabbed Jose Alvarado. Look, they got Herb Jones. They have Trey Murphy. These guys are bench players. Now they're coming into, their own. And Willie Green seems to be coming into his own. We don't know what his future is. But it's not that they're bad guys. And it's not that the fan base wanted them to do bad. I think it's that we gave you your opportunity. We look how other teams treat the window that they give, guys that are doing even better. Like, even better. And that's not a diss to our team. That's just like, these teams are doing even better. And their ownership said that's not enough. Not in this league anymore. Look how many teams in the West are getting 50 wins. Look how many teams, look at all these teams. Look what the trajectory of, where the NBA is going. And I think, from the fan base, at least the fan base, we said enough is enough. This isn't going to suffice. But that's not to say Zion's a bad guy. Zion's a young man learning the game, enjoying the game. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado. We don't have Brandon Ingram anymore, but Brandon Ingram, Larry Nance was here. Like, I love this team. Let me tell you, I love this team. I love the guys that left. Dyson Daniels is doing phenomenal, and I want nothing but the best. It's nothing. It's not the coaching staff that left, not the medical team that left. I know the medical team was trying their best. These guys are just getting hurt. So, it's not ill will to the person. It's just for the fans. When we, put our money in, we're buying these tickets, people are wanting their marketing to be here. You have to put a product on the court that embodies what everybody believes in, because everybody believes you can win. So y'all have to start winning. That's all it is. And to your point, we saw great things. We got Brandon Boston. Brandon Boston is doing a phenomenal job for the Pelicans. We finally signed Elfrid Payton. These are good things that we're seeing. So there is some positivity, and you are completely right. And I stand by you when you say we have a good team. We do have a damn good team. Zion Williamson is top tier. Trey Murphy is an amazing wing. Herb Jones, amazing wing. I think we've seen, because we didn't even say this, Yves Missy, most games played this year out of the entire team and damn near averaged a double-double. Who would have thought? People were really down on that selection. And give credit where credit is due. That's David Griffin. But it is time to move on. But I am optimistic as a view when it comes to the future. And I don't think we're going to be like Charlotte. And nobody talks about LaMelo Ball having even more injuries than Zion Williamson in his tenure. Now the Wizards look pretty good, but I do think the Pelicans are still better than the Wizards. You can't name anybody on the Wizards that can stop Zion Williamson. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you were a fan and you're like, okay, I got to be a fan of one of these 4 teams, hoping next year is going to be good. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. You're going with the Pelicans because they do have the best shot. They're not just trying to pull out of being one of the worst teams in the league. They literally have a chance to be one of the best teams in the league next year with their current roster. This is not even with drafting anybody. I mean, listen, next year, if Zion does what he does, he could be MVP. You got Trey Murphy, all-star, no doubt. Missy could be an all-star, no doubt. I mean, what are we complaining about? Just stay healthy. That's all I need y'all to do is stay healthy. And I'll tell you what I think about Willie Green. I know a lot of people, they got their opinion, but Willie has coached every game from the tip-off till the buzzer went off at the end of that game. He knew what he was dealt with this year. It has been rough, and he never gave up on his team. And I think what Jose Alvarado said after that last game about Willie, defending him, says a lot. Players don't come out and defend their coach that way just to put on a show. I think he knows that guy's been in the trenches with them all this time. This man knows he's got a roster that can win. He wants to win and show everybody what he can do. And, he's just as on board with everybody else as, my God, can y'all just stay healthy one season for me?
Right.
But I think that Zion showed so much growth this year in maturing and really getting himself in shape. And then, I know he got hurt at the end of the season, but obviously we were resting everybody. So, I mean, I only see good things coming out. But what do you see happening with the Willie Green situation, or what would you want to happen with that?
Well, with new, with new management, usually comes new faces. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was gone. But I say this: I think Willie Green is a fundamental of a foundation. I keep saying fundamental, a foundational part of this team. I actually wouldn't like to see him gone. And I think a part of us having, a top defense in the league those years we were doing good was due to, Willie Green's impact and influence. And for young guys in the league, now it depends on how you feel about it. I don't think he handled Jordan Hawkins properly. But I do know that Jordan Hawkins is a better defender. Now, did that might his minutes and all that, could that restrict him from flourishing like he might have for another team, like a Cam Thomas for the Nets? That's just a guy that goes and gets a bucket. Some guys just need to go get buckets, and that's just who they are. They're just not going to play defense. I think things like that. But I would love for him just to stay here and be one of the coaches that have influence. If he was a defensive coach for the team, I would be. And I would sign that right now. Now, do I think he's a head coach? I'm not saying that he's not a head coach, but I do prefer a coach with a little bit more forward thinking. And I'm not saying he's got to see the future, but I think good coaches see where other good coaches are going with their. And I think when you look at a JJ Redick, I think when you look at what other teams are doing, when you look at Joe Mazzulla. That's a young guy. When you look at the Ime Udoka, however you feel about these guys, the Rockets are number 2. And I can tell you a huge reason is that they drafted well. They built that foundation. A lot of those guys have been there a couple of years. And then they got a hell of a coach. Same coach that took the Celtics and made their star players start playing some defense. And look what happened when the Celtics, became two-way players, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I was hoping that for Willie Green, but I just don't think he has just as good as a defensive coach he is, I don't think he has that on offense. I just don't. And with James Borrego, I didn't see enough from him as well. We don't really have an identity when it comes to offense. What's the Pelicans' identity? Oh, Zion Williamson? That's not an identity. That's a person. You can shoot down the messenger, but you can't kill a movement. So we need an identity. So regardless of what a team does, the Warriors still look like the Warriors when Steph don't play. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the identities. And I think we need a coach that can build that culture and that identity and keep, people organized and keep people, in line and disciplined, but not just him telling the players what to do, but empowering the players, imploring the players to be a player-led team. Y'all do what the hell y'all need to do, because this is what you do to get to where you want to go. I'll help you. I'll surround you with the right resources when you need a guidance, or you need somebody to be in your ear. If you need somebody to tell you to shut the hell up or whatever, I'll be that guy for you. And when you need me to draw up a great play at the end of the game, I will be that guy. Can Willie Green draw up a great play at the end of the game? I don't think so. I think he might be able to put the right defense to, prevent whatever, but I don't think he'll draw up the play. But also I think Kevin Sampson for the Houston the college, in the Final Four, I think he had a great quote, and I might butcher this a little bit, but it was basically essentially saying that great teams, they practice that. This isn't like something I draw up at the end of the game. This is something we practice and that we're comfortable with. I don't know if these guys are doing that. They're comfortable with a last game set. Now, granted, this is an NBA team, they probably do, but we just haven't seen it. I just think it's time for new energy.
Well, I think one of the things that makes us question that, and it really might not be Willie Green's fault, but we haven't seen us close close games. And granted, we didn't have a whole lot this year, but
you didn't have DeJounte Murray either.
Yeah, but think about the season before. How many 3 points or less did we lose by? And we had the shot at the end many times, and we just couldn't. We weren't clutch on it. So is that a player problem there, or is that the play that's being called? I don't know. But speaking of DeJounte Murray, we're not going to have him to start off the season next year with him, So point guard wise, it sure was great when he was playing. He was really starting to find his groove. But, are we looking at CJ McCollum? Are we looking at Jose Alvarado? Are we looking at Elfrid Payton? Who are we looking at as starting point guard next year? I'm not sure who fills that role. I want it to be Murray, but or do we, draft somebody that could? I'm not sure. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think first it definitely depends on where we land in the draft, and it depends on the availability, like who puts themselves in the draft, where do we rank them, are they going to be in a spot that we can grab them, and what does the team need 5 years from now? Is DeJounte Murray still going to be that guy in 5 years, or should we get a guy that can learn a lot from DeJounte Murray? Because DeJounte Murray, he's a great point guard. Some people might not say great, but I think any point guard that's a two-way guard and can close, that's a pretty damn good point guard. So can we get a guy that learns from him, or do we lean more on Jose? Because Jose, he's a phenomenal off the bench guard, and
I think that's the key. He's phenomenal off the bench. I just don't see him being a starter. I love him and his energy, but he's just not a. I don't want to start probably and finish a game.
Right. He's an energy. He's definitely an energy guy. He's a defensive pessimist. Did I say pessimist? Yeah, I think. But he's a
defensive pest.
Yeah, he's a defensive pest. I don't see Jose being that guy for us if DeJounte's out long term. I don't also want us to lean on another combo guard. I really, just anybody that's not a true point guard. Now we have Elfrid, and I like Elfrid a lot. Is he going to be able to, fill that hole? I'm not completely sure, but I'll tell you one thing: if Dylan Harper is available and we can grab him, I'm definitely getting Dylan Harper in the draft. I think he showed us everything that we needed to see. Size, scoring ability, ball handle. He just has it in his genes from his father to be an NBA player. But we might not get that. We might not get that opportunity to draft him. So that leaves you with who else can you draft? Who's in the market? Who's looking to get traded? I'm not sure. So It's going to be interesting, but I just hope that we have a true guard, leading this team, because the team looks better when we have a true guard. And these young guys like Carlo, guys like Yee's Missy, they'll flourish with a guy that can really control a court. Okay, looks like we're having some technical difficulties. That's okay. But I stand on what I said. Uh, I think Dylan Harper is a phenomenal guard to draft in this draft, if possible. I think Garrett Queen is a great big, if available. We should take his offensive tenacity and his will to just be a dominant big it's something to look at. And I think pairing him with Yee's Missy would be interesting. That'd be a cool combo, I think. And we can use all the bigs that we can. Our front court needs some help, even though I think Carlo is coming into his own role. And I think Yves Missy is going to be, real solid, guy off the bench. I don't see him as a starting big, but I think he'd be, he's a guy that could be tremendous off the bench. I'm talking about when it comes to a playoff series and your backup big is Yves Missy. That's saying something, in my opinion. Where I think this team lacks is definitely a focal guard. We have the wings. I think it's really just about how you use the combination of skill when it comes to driving to the lane and being able to space the floor, being able to stretch the floor with guys around Zion. I think we've been talking about this for so long. Zion needs, people on his team to be able to stretch the floor and, get some of that, the brutalness of, just being in the NBA and playing all these games. Now, granted, Zion's not playing that many games, but Zion's getting fouled. Zion is dealing with a lot, and he's not getting calls. So whatever we can do to get guys on the outside and make people respect them, that's what we should do. We need a guard that can shoot threes, 1 and 2. We need a 3 that can shoot threes. We need a 4 that can shoot threes. We need a 5 that can shoot threes, or at least make somebody respect them enough to come to the 3-point line. You know what I'm saying? And we need guys that are, willing to rebound at an elite level if we want to be a playoff team. We can't be a team that is losing the rebounding battle. We can't be a team that's losing the second chance point battle. We can't be a team that's not diving for the loose ball. We have to do all of this combination of things to win against these other teams, because that's what they're being coached to do. And if we settle, we sell ourselves short of being a great team. We need to be top 5 in offense, at least I'll say this. We need to at least be top 6 in offense and defense. I feel like for us to have a real shot in the Western Conference, because we're just going to have to go through a brutal amount of elite talent, especially in the foreseeable future. You got to think, bro, OKC, what did they do to us? The Timberwolves, that's a challenge. Anthony Edwards is only getting better. Nas Reed is phenomenal. They got all these, Jaden McDaniels. They just drafted this guy out of Kentucky that looks great. All these guys look phenomenal. So it's all about what are we going to do to combat these great players on these other teams. The Houston Rockets are the second best in the West. Okay. Jokic is still Jokic. Wemby is going to still be Wemby. The Spurs are getting better. All these teams, they're getting better for the most part. It's about what are we going to do to get better and be able to fight when it comes to being in the playoffs, because we're not here to continue to be the play-in, warriors. We're not here for that. And it's nothing. I don't want to make it sound like you're garbage if you go to the play-in. The West is tough, but that's not putting us in the best position. So it's all about what can we do to just create the best environment for winning when come playoff. And that's being at home. That's being in front of your home court. That's having, the confidence. And it's not going to be pretty the first year. It's probably not going to be pretty the first 3 years. Most great teams, they work their way to the Western Conference Finals. They work their way to a finals. They lose, in the second round or the third round. You know, they go through this, you know, all these obstacles to get to where they want to get to. So I think that's just what the Pelicans have to do, and I'll be really interested to see what they do with that. Um, but we'll come back to you. It's been fun. Uh, and shout out to Chrissy. She had some technical difficulties, but she made some great points. And I think her shirt was fire. Y'all should go look at Be in the Know's website and look at some of the merch that we have. We got some pretty cool stuff. Go check it out. You know, show some support, show some love. And I know that we are going to be on it next year. It's this next year is going to be something else. So y'all just watch, y'all just wait. And we're going to be coming at you with some great stuff. So thank y'all for joining.